Hello team and welcome back to the channel. So before we get started, I would request you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You will find tons of amazing hands-on videos on DevOps and on cloud DevOps, and also we try to cover real-time scenarios with hands-on. So make sure to subscribe in order to not miss any of the video notification. Talking about today's video, so in today's video we are going to discuss about ultimate roadmap of DevOps, which is going to help you a lot. That has already helped me a lot to get a lot of job opportunities. So make sure to check out this video. I have explained everything in detail, which is going to help you a lot if you are getting started with DevOps or preparing for DevOps interviews. Okay. Also team, for those who are looking for DevSecOps and Cloud DevOps training, so next batch is starting on 18th of January. This I have decided to keep as pre-recorded plus one-to-one guidance because this is January 2025 and new session has started, so hiring will be very soon beginning. So what I want that you can immediately prepare everything with the course, and once you have prepared, you can connect to me one-to-one for resume building as well as for interview guidance, where I can guide you with project explanation plus what kind of projects you can add in your resume. Talking about the projects in the course, so these are the main projects that we are going to do hands-on implementation. As you can see, we have multi-tier 4 projects where Node.js plus MySQL, .NET plus MongoDB, Python plus PostgreSQL, Java plus MySQL. So this is going to help you a lot to understand how connection to database happens. Then we have mega project for on EKS. When we have mega project with Helm chart, then GitOps project, a virtual browser project, then 11 microservice based project, Terraform for, plus Ansible corporate project, then Kubernetes worker node monitoring and application deployed in Kubernetes monitoring. This will be the hands-on projects that we are implementing. And also the price is 7650 with the discount of early bird, which is available for limited period of time. So yeah, if you're interested in learning from scratch, make sure to check it out. And again, I'm saying all the contents of all the course content will be immediately available from 18th of January. Okay, so yeah, immediately you can complete the course. You can connect to me for one-on-one guidance. So team, let us discuss about today's session agenda. So first thing in our agenda that we have is ultimate roadmap, and this is the roadmap that I have studied from, and it has helped me get lot of offers. So in detail, I'm going to explain each tool and topic, what exactly we need to cover in order to get hands-on knowledge, plus be prepared for how we should be getting prepared for the interviews. So make sure to watch this video because everything I'm going to explain in detail. So team, second thing that we have in our agenda is about a ATS compatible resume. So recently I was preparing a resume for my batch where after multiple modifications I was able to get the 100% ATS compatibility with this resume. And this is the resume that I am going to show you directly. Plus there will be a separate video I'll be creating on guiding you how you can set up an ATS compatible resume and what are the points that you need to worry about. Talking about next thing, so recently I have started creating an interview kit also, which is going to be useful for people who are preparing for DevOps. Now, each of these folder that you see, it is with respect to DevOps concept and tools, and each folder will be containing first normal Q&A for interviews, then scenario based Q&A, then error solution and root cause analysis. And this is going to be really helpful if you are going for DevOps interviews. Okay, so yeah, this whole interview kit is in progress and it will be completed within 5 to 6 days. So yeah, then I'll be sharing it with you. So team, now let's talk about the roadmap, and this is the only roadmap that you have to follow. So now let us discuss in detail what exactly are the things that we need to do. First of all, if you are going to follow this roadmap, make sure that you are consistent. Okay, focus more on hands-on and make small notes. When I say small notes, that means you don't have to prepare everything. Make the notes of things that you are not able to remember or you are getting confused with. Make note of that only. Okay, now talking about the first thing that we have to understand. So first we have module 1 where we have to discuss about, or where we have to understand about DevOps and DevSecOps. Okay, so first thing we need to understand what exactly is DevOps and DevSecOps. Also make sure that you are searching and learning why DevOps is needed. Why I'm saying that? Because in DevOps, whatever tool exists, it exists because it is solving a problem. So why do we have DevOps? Make sure to find out the answer to this. Then definitely we have to understand about benefits of DevOps, why exactly like it's useful and what kind of benefits does it provide. Talking about next thing, we have DevOps workflow. Now, when I say DevOps workflow, it's not just about that basic workflow. It's basically, see, when I talk about DevOps workflow, it's about the process that is getting involved from code to prod, means from writing the source code for the application till all the process, all the steps involved in deploying the application to production environment. All those steps should be included, and that will be the DevOps workflow. Okay, that will be there. Talking about next thing, so in order to understand the corporate DevOps workflow, what things you need to be what things that need to be included. First, the steps that are from client, like what client says, okay, I have this requirement, I want to build and deploy. So what are the steps involved? Like we have like sprint going on, like there will be multiple tickets created, each person is going to work on tickets, all those process. Then we are going to create the CI/CD pipeline. What are the stages in that pipeline? You need to understand very clearly. Then how we are deploying to production environment. All those things, every single thing that is involved within this process, you should be knowing about. Obviously, if you are new and you are not aware about, try to connect with someone who is experienced in DevOps and try to get some knowledge from there. Okay, but yeah, this is very important. This is going to help you understand the whole life cycle of DevOps. Why do we have DevOps and how exactly it proceeds? Okay. There is one small concept also which I suggest just go through it in short way, is Jira ticketing. So basically Jira ticketing is a tool, Jira is a tool that is going to help us track the work progress, who is working on what, and that is the tool that is going to help you to log your time, how much you have worked. But in every company this is being utilized. For that purpose I am saying get a little bit knowledge about Jira ticketing tool. Okay. Then we have DevOps tools. Now in DevOps tools also, basically you should be at least getting initially the information about what are the tools that we use generally in DevOps and what is their purpose. Okay, for example, like Jenkins, Git, SonarQube, Nexus, Docker. So what are these and what is their purpose? Basic information that you should be doing in module 1. Okay, then we have another important thing, which is roles and responsibilities. Okay, again I am saying, obviously if you are new to DevOps, then you do not have knowledge on this, try to connect with someone who is experienced, but get this knowledge, because there are different kind of roles and responsibilities we have. Obviously you cannot go to interview and say ki I am continuously writing pipeline, because nobody is writing pipeline every single day, right? Pipeline is mostly written for the first time, and after that there are modifications, right? So these are the kind of things. Plus there will be pod management, so how exactly those things are done. Then there will be git repo management on corporate level, how exactly these things are done. Those things should be known by you. Okay, then we have another important thing, which is deployment strategy. Okay, so you should be studying about deployment strategy. What are the general deployment strategies we have, which one is the best, and try to find out which deployment strategy has zero downtime. Because in interviews, if someone asks like what kind of strategy did you use in your company, then you can tell the name of strategy that has zero downtime, because that is the preferred thing. Okay, everywhere nobody wants that. Everywhere everyone wants that. The application that is deployed in some kind of cluster, that should be having zero downtime. If there is any update, then during that update process also there should be zero downtime. So based on that you need to answer. Okay, but again make sure to go through that. Then we have documentation. So for interview preparation there should be 3 kind of documentation you should be having. First is going to be generally interview Q&A. Second is going to be scenario based Q&A. Third thing is going to be error and troubleshooting Q&A. Okay, so make sure to cover these things also. Next up we have Linux. So first of all you should understand about Linux architecture, why we are using Linux mostly instead of Windows, that you should know. Then architecture of Linux, which is quite important in order to understand how exactly like whole computing process happens, like what is the purpose of kernel, how exactly distribution happens of resources, those things you should know. Then file system, because Linux has so many different files and each file has specific purpose. So you should be knowing about not all of them, but the ones that are generally used, that you should be definitely knowing about. Okay, then we need to understand about VMs. Okay, now if you are learning about VM, first of all you need to make sure that you are aware about certain topics, which is ports, then SSH, then key pairs. These are the general thing that you should be know about when we are working with virtual machine. And thirdly, you should definitely know about how to manage a virtual machine. When I say manage, that means how you can create virtual machine properly, how you can work with that. Okay, so these 3 things you should be knowing properly. And when we are talking about ports, you should know how to open and close port, And some of the basic information about ports you should be knowing. For example, like which port is for what purpose, 22 for SSH, 80 for HTTP, then 443 we have. So these are some general ports that you should be definitely having information about. Okay. Then you should be having knowledge about how you can create the virtual machine, how you can access using SSH. Those things also you should be having knowledge about. Okay. Talking about next thing. So next thing we should be knowing about, first of all, basic commands. When I say basic commands, that means cd, then mkdir, copy, move, these kind of commands, touch, vi, those kind of basic command you should be knowing. Plus you should be knowing about the advanced commands also. Advanced commands mean commands that are made up of multiple commands. For example, we have important command like grep, we have awk, we have sed. These are very advanced command and that have multiple use. Okay, so you should get very good knowledge on these also. Then directory manipulation. Okay, so file and directory, how you can manage and how you can manipulate. You can change permissions, you can move here and there, and like basically properly manage. Okay, then there should be package management. So installing any kind of package within Linux, that could be done in different ways, so you should be having a very good knowledge on that. So next topic should be package management, where you can install it, you can update it, we can remove it. And as I said, there are multiple ways. You can install from the default Linux repository, you can install by adding the external repo, you can manually add external repo, then you can install. So there are different ways. And even package management tools are there. We have like apt in Ubuntu, we have snap there. So depending on requirement which should be using, for example, from my experience, I have seen that snap is very slow. So I try to avoid using snap as much as I can. So again, this kind of information you get to know once you are doing hands-on. Okay. Then we have files and folder permission that I will discuss already, like properly how we can change the permissions, how we can make owner and how, like what kind of permission we can change. That's thing we need to discuss. Then we have user and group management. Again, user group management, you need to understand what kind of users are there. Okay, and how we can create users, how we can manage them. Again, creating an users and group, there are two commands. One command is the basic one command is the another command is the complex one. So you should be having knowledge on that as well, right? There is one specific file that highly recommend to go through, or at least use ChatGPT to learn about it, which is etc folder. So all the configuration of virtual machines will be stored inside this folder, and I highly recommend to check this out and to get more information about what kind of files do we have inside etc folder. Okay. Then we have networking. So when we talk about networking, two most important concepts that we should 100% aware about is the IP addresses. What kind of IP addresses we have, what is the structure of them, like there is different form, like we have hexadecimal and we have binary. So that information you should have very good knowledge on that, how, like bit by bit, how many bits are there, those information. Then subnetting, because subnetting is some kind of concept that is being used in everywhere. Whenever we talk about networking, subnetting is the first thing that we should 100% know about. So make sure to learn that. Once you learn these two things, then slowly you get to learn other concept also with respect to network within Linux. Okay, that you'll be able to do using common networking commands. So in common networking command, there could be different commands, like there are like basic command that I used a lot, like NSLOOKUP. So sometimes what happens, like when we get issues with respect to virtual machines, so first command that we are going to see, we are going to run is NSLOOKUP to check the server of that virtual machine, to what server it belongs and all those information, right? Then we have telnet command. That is also quite useful when you want to find out if some server is up or not and it is able to connect on port 22 or not, that information, right? So for troubleshooting, networking commands are quite useful and I have used a lot. That will be able to find out. Then a networking command, another thing that is very useful is command to open and close ports. That also you should be knowing about. Then another thing that you should be 100% aware about is process management in Linux. Because at one time we run multiple processes, multiple commands and multiple services at one point we run Linux, and sometimes there are issues with respect to that. So how we can manage it, how we can manage a process, how we can run one process in background, how we can make it run for a specific time period, and how we can trigger a process. So all those things will be coming inside process management that you should be 100% aware about. Then we have Linux troubleshooting. So using ChatGPT or any YouTube video, or even like through my courses, you'll be able to get to learn what kind of troubleshooting we have to do, what kind of issues do we get with respect to Linux, and how do we resolve it. So that also gives a very good idea. Then we have shell scripting. Now, this thing I'll tell you very clearly. Shell script is some kind of thing that requires lot of time and effort to master. So if you are looking to master shell scripting, it will require a lot of time. Okay, you have to give months, and you have to continuously practice. And shell script is something of that kind that if you leave practicing, you will forget for sure. Okay, so in my opinion, what I suggest, learn basic of shell scripting, how you are able to write different commands, how you are able to understand different shell scripts, and move on. Because if you have time to master it, then you do. But in my opinion, in like I do not focus that much on shell script. Okay, when for interviews I prepare at for some time, I understand the commands, I practice writing different commands, that is fine. But again, if you want to master it, it's going to take a lot of time. Okay, and if someone's saying okay, I want to master shell script within a week or so, it's not possible. It is very complex thing. Okay, but yeah, again, at this point, most companies prefer someone who is having knowledge on writing shell scripts. So make sure that you have at least good knowledge on shell scripts. Okay, then we have corporate level shell script examples. So basically, if you are going for interviews, if they ask like shell script, you should definitely tell or immediately tell that okay, I have used shell script for this purpose. So you can make your own list of 10 examples or 15 examples of how you are using shell scripts in your companies. Okay, in addition to these things, you should go with detailed documentation that I just explained, 3 kind of document that you should be having. Okay, moving forward to next thing, we have Git. Git is something that is widely used and everywhere used, because that's the place where that's the way that you are going to manage your code, any kind of code that you have, source code, IAC code, anything, then you can manage it using Git. Now, what thing we should be studying within it? First of all, understanding what exactly is Git, and understanding the difference between distributed system and that single system. Okay, centralized system. Basically, you should know proper difference, because not everyone understand that, and everyone just jump to running basic Git commands. Okay, then you should see how you are creating Git repository, different kind of Git repository, public repository, private repository, that you should see. And at this point, as you know, that we don't use a password for managing the repositories, we use token. So make sure that we are aware about that. Then we have essential Git concepts. Okay, so to be very frank, I'll tell you something, that these are the general commands that we use on regular basis in companies. There are very less time where we have to use any complex command or something, but generally we just use 5 or 6 command: git, push, pull, raise, pull request, those kind of things we do. So make sure that you have very good knowledge on this. Branch management, how you can create branches, how you can delete branches, how you can rename, how you can like manipulate branches. Then merge versus rebase. So this is something that is being asked in companies like too many times. So make sure you have very good knowledge on that, because in merge and like merge and rebase, you should be having very good knowledge, because in merge, one thing that one of the main difference that we see is an extra commit. In rebase is linear. There is no history of like there is a merging happen. Okay, so this is like my understanding, basic understanding that you should know. Cherry pick with demo. Again, these are the commands that you should practice by hands-on. Stash and pop, there are multiple kind of stashing and popping, so you should check out that as well. Then we have squash, revert, and reset. This is also something that is being asked in interviews a lot, so you should get very good knowledge on that with hands-on. You should practice well. Okay, then we have bisect and blame. Then handling merge conflicts and with the demo. So basically this is something that you need to practice. You need to do hands-on to see what kind of conflicts happens, and when conflicts happen, and how you are going to resolve that conflicts. Okay, in addition to that, we have GitOps workflows also that you should be covering. Once you have covered till Kubernetes, then it will be useful. But GitOps is at this point best way to perform CI/CD. Okay, then we have branching strategy. Now when we say branching strategy, on Google or on YouTube, you'll be able to find proper branching strategy like dev, QA, PPD, prod, and DR. That is the general one, but try to find out something that is actually being used. For example, in my company, we were using just two kind of branches. One was prod, one was QA. In QA, we have the feature and other things, but these are the two general branches that we utilized. Similar to that, we had just two environment. One was QA, one was prod. So this is something real time, because it's not possible for every company to manage 5 clusters, 5 environments, because it's not easy to. It's going to be very costly. So depending on these kind of things, they have different kind of branching strategies. So try to find out something that is actually being used. Then make sure that you have good knowledge on different kind of branches. When we create feature, when we create release branches, when we create hotfix branches, make sure that you have good knowledge. Then workflows, what exactly is the workflow, how Git is being utilized in companies, and in projects, how exactly it's being utilized. Make sure that you have good knowledge on that. Then Git errors and troubleshooting. What kind of errors do we get? For example, generally you get an error when something is uploaded on repository, but it is not updated in your local. So for that, we have to run the command git pull before we run the git push command. Similarly, there is a restrictions where you cannot upload big sized files. So you have to properly enable or like set up LFS, large file system or something like that, which will make sure that you are able to upload files. Then there are scenarios where you have to increase buffer size in order to make sure that you are able to push big size files. Okay. Then again, we have the nodes. Okay. So this will be the things that you need to cover with respect to Git. Talking about build tools, another very important topic. In build tools, we have, in my opinion, at least you should have two build tool knowledge, Maven and npm inside out. Now, when we talk about Maven, it's not just about that you should know command like Maven compile, Maven test. No, it's not like that. With respect to build tools, the knowledge that you should be focusing on is, first, you should make sure that you have proper and good understanding of folder structure. Okay. Be it Maven, be it npm. Why I'm saying folder structure? Because as a DevOps engineer, we have to make sure that dependencies are up to date, proper dependencies are installed. So for that, first of all, we should know that. See, again, I'm saying it's not just about Maven compile, Maven test. We should be knowing where exactly we need to run the command, right? So first thing, we should know that we should be running these commands on the location where we have the dependency files. Then only dependencies will be downloaded, right? That we should know. Then we should exactly know like which file is the file that contains dependencies, right? For example, in Maven we have pom.xml, in npm we have package.json, in .NET we have some file that is named csproj extension. Then we have Python, in which we have requirements.txt. So we should be aware about these kind of files and how we can modify these things. As someone who is DevOps engineer, I'm not saying that you should have very deep knowledge in Java, Node.js and all, but you should have very good idea about the folder structure. Similarly, another thing that we should be knowing about is the entry point of the applications. Okay, means which file or which part is that of the application, that is the entry point from where the application will be accessed. And next thing that you should be aware about is the database config. If you are working with a complex project, definitely you are going to have database communications. So make sure to find out those files as well. For example, in Maven or Spring Boot projects, we have a file known as application.properties. Why I'm saying that you need to know database configuration also, because sometimes a DevOps engineer is going to give you just the project that, okay, start deploying this. So at that point, we cannot go every time to ask everything, okay, where is database URL, where is this and that. In that case, what we have to do, we have to just find the file that is containing the information about database connections. For example, inside application.properties file, we will be having information about database name, username, password, URL, those things. So from there we can make changes and make sure that application is properly deployed. So these are some configuration files. Similar to this, in other projects also there will be database connection files that we should be aware about. There is one more file that is quite important, .env. So if you want to part some environment variables, then you can put it inside .env file. Okay. Now again, I'm saying once you have this information, then you should jump to building the projects. For example, we have mvn package, right? Similar to that, we have npm build, right? npm start. So what command you'll be able you should be using to build the project, what command you should be using to run the project. Like in maven we have directly we can run like this java-jar, then whatever jar file we have, right? Or we can also use like maven spring boot run. Okay, so these are some general commands that you should be knowing in order to build the application and run it. Okay, now once you have this knowledge, then you should start building the project. You should start building Java project, building and running Java project to see how it works and what kind of changes are happening. Same thing you should be doing with Node.js based projects, right? Talking about what kind of projects you should be working with. So first, make sure that, because in applications it's very important to know or get knowledge with respect to database. So first, the kind of projects that I cover in my courses, Node.js plus MySQL, .NET plus MongoDB, Python plus Postgres. So from here we'll be able to understand how exactly database connection is happening. Okay, then actually at least I cover one Java full stack also, which gives very good example. Then we have Tomcat. Now Tomcat is a deployment server where we can deploy basic websites, not very complex one, but basic websites are easily deployed. Okay, then you should know how to set up Tomcat server and how you can deploy a Java based application on Tomcat. Then again we have nodes. In nodes, make sure that you are covering the errors. Why I'm saying to cover errors in build tools? Because build tools are the base of the project, where project get built, dependencies get downloaded. So if you have if you have proper knowledge on what kind of errors we get, then you'll be able to troubleshoot very easily with respect to those projects. Talking about next thing, which is CI/CD tools, and CI/CD tool is actually the backbone of DevOps, on which we should have very good knowledge. So the CI/CD tools that I cover in my courses, this one, sorry, I cover Jenkins, I cover GitHub Action and GitLab CI/CD. Talking about things that we should cover or learn with respect to Jenkins, first, you should learn how to set up Jenkins properly. Then you should learn, once you set up Jenkins, make sure to check out the configuration, then plugins, where we can download plugins, where we can update plugins. There are ways using which you can install custom plugins also, so make sure to check out that as well. Configuration is quite important because you need to do a lot of changes when you are getting started with Jenkins, so make sure to check out that as well. Then we have Jenkins jobs. Now there are three main kind of job that we work with: freestyle job, pipeline job, and multi-branch pipeline job. Now whenever you are creating this kind of job, make sure that you are adding or doing integrations of different tools like Git, SonarQube and everything, so that you can see how exactly we can integrate these tools and how communication happens. Then we have shared library. The shared library is something that is quite widely used in companies at this point, because it reduces a lot of effort. It reduces a lot of manual effort, and it is going to help you create reusable code which can be utilized very easily. Parameters. So in order to set up a choice, like if you want to deploy between let's say I want to deploy to dev, or I want to deploy to QA. So if I want to get this option at runtime where I can decide, okay, I want to deploy to dev or QA, some kind of choices that can be done using parameters. Okay, but parameter is quite useful and at this point is being used widely everywhere. And again, there are different kind of parameters, so make sure to do hands-on with different kind of parameters. Then we have access management. So inside Jenkins, in order to set up permissions for different users and groups, you have to set up access management inside the metrics. Basically what happens in companies, they are going to set up directory service kind of thing, which will be connected to Jenkins. So here you'll be setting up multiple groups. Let's say developer group, then DevOps group. So these groups will be given permission inside Jenkins, like developers will be given read-only permission, and DevOps engineers will be given full access, like that kind of thing. So that can be done easily with matrix inside Jenkins. Then we have webhook trigger. Now inside Jenkins we can start a pipeline. We can trigger a pipeline using like we can automatically trigger a pipeline based on condition. Like for example, let's say we have a repository, let's say application repo we have, and we have different branches. Okay, we have DO branch, we have QA branch, we have main branch. So I have set up condition that whenever there are push inside QA branch, the pipeline that is using QA branch code, specific pipeline only, it should start immediately. Why it should be starting? So that the new code that we have pushed into QA should be immediately tested that this is correct code and working fine. So how we can implement that, you should be knowing about using generic webhook trigger. Okay. Now the thing is ki there are two kind of trigger that we have: generic, which is a webhook trigger for pipelines job. Then we have multi-branch pipeline webhook setup. So that once we have multi-branch kind of pipelines, then there also we can automate this. Next thing that we should be knowing about, again as I say, integration. Okay, how we can integrate SonarQube with Jenkins. So that also you should be know. And similarly, we should be knowing about Nexus, how we can integrate it with that. Then Jenkins integration with security tools. Security tools at this point, you know how important it is. So make sure that you have a good knowledge and good experience, like how you can integrate Jenkins with security tool. And these are the tools that I would highly recommend to cover OWASP and Trivy. There are other tools also, but these two are something that can do most of the things. Okay. Then we have scenario based implementation. So in my course, actually, I created 10, I think 10 or 12 scenarios, different kind of scenario based implementation with respect to Jenkins. For example, like if you want to deploy to different environments, what kind of pipeline should be there? If I want to set up parallel implementation of stages, like let's say I have unit testing and I have, let's say, integration testing in two stages. So I want that these two stages should be executed parallelly. So how we can implement that? So based similar to that, there could be different scenarios where we should be knowing how exactly we need to implement Jenkins. Okay. Then we have upstream and downstream jobs. So we can set up this in order to make sure that one pipeline starts another pipeline. Okay. This could be useful when you want to create CI and CD separately. So this could be useful. Okay. Again, this could be you should definitely learn about this as well. Then we have Jenkins file. It's not very complex one, but basically you should know like what exactly it is and how exactly we use it. For example, general, we know that we can create Jenkins file, right? But if I want to create multiple Jenkins file, how do I name it? So basically, this is the constant Jenkins file. If you want to create multiple Jenkins file, make sure that first word is Jenkins file. After that, you can write anything. Similarly, like I can write Jenkins file, let's say underscore new. So these are all three Jenkins file only, but naming you can see this is constant, but this we have to change. Okay. Jenkins file is simply this simply a file inside which we write our pipeline and store that Jenkins file to GitHub repository. Then we have backup. How we can take Jenkins job backup and whole Jenkins backup. That also you should be knowing. Troubleshooting, quite useful because at this point Jenkins is one of the most widely used CI/CD tool, and there are tons of issues always come with respect to whatever pipeline you are creating. So make sure to go through or make sure to understand different kind of Jenkins troubleshooting. Then mail notification. So internet I saw everyone is configuring at this point Gmail. Everyone knows that in companies they are not going to use Gmail. So in my opinion, it's fine. You should learn Gmail also, but focus on knowing how you can configure Outlook. Okay, in my course I have added video for this as well. Then how you can use Jenkins to deploy an application to Tomcat server. Make sure to check out that as well. Talking about second, in module 5 CI/CD tools, we are now what kind of projects or what kind of pipelines you should be creating with respect to Jenkins. So actually, first of all, this kind of project first, a microservice kind of project you should be working with respect to Jenkins. Multi-tier, where you have to create separate pipeline for backend, front end, like that. Then normal full stack projects. Okay. In addition to this, you should be always also working with projects that require multi-branch pipeline. So if you are practicing with Jenkins with these, then you will be getting very good knowledge. And again, I'm saying with respect to Jenkins, make sure the pipeline that you are creating, it has all the stages properly implemented, and also different scenarios you are covering within the pipeline as well. Okay. Then we have GitHub Actions. At this point, GitHub Actions is quite widely used. Why? Because it provides a lot of features and almost everything is for free. Okay. So here, what I usually cover is how you can set up GitHub Actions, how you can take a virtual machine, make it a GitHub agent, how you can build your project on that, and make sure that you are creating end-to-end CI/CD pipeline. Okay. Similarly, we have to do the same thing with respect to GitLab CI/CD, because in that also we are going to build projects. Okay. Then documentation that I discuss about. Moving to next module. Next we have SonarQube. Now, everywhere I'm saying SonarQube, everyone is able to work, but what are the things that you should actually focus on? First, you should know what exactly is SonarQube. For example, lots of people do not know that SonarQube server and SonarQube scanner, these are two different things. Server is the website where we can view the reports. Scanner is the tool that is going to trigger the report, trigger the analysis. Okay, this thing you should know. Then you should know about the what exactly is code quality check and code coverage. Those are two different things. Code quality check is going to find out issues within the code, while code coverage is the percentage of code that is tested. Okay. Then what kind of issues do we find in SonarQube? That also you should be knowing about. Then this is something that I actually covered in my course. What I have covered? First, I have covered how to set up SonarQube locally with SSL certificates and HTTPS configured. Okay. Now, you should once you set up, you should understand how exactly what are the quality profiles and what are the rules within SonarQube and the quality gate. These are something that is quite important that you should know about. Then you should know how you can integrate SonarQube with Jenkins. So you should configure SonarQube with Jenkins, then GitLab CI/CD, then GitHub Actions. All three kind of CI/CD tools, you should know how to integrate them. Then you should know that. Then make sure that you are able to generate the report. Now, when I say report, see, everyone is able to generate the code quality check, that everyone is able to generate. But lots of people still do not know how to generate the code coverage, because that is also quite important in order to find out what percentage of code is tested. So that you should know how to generate, and in order to get good knowledge, in my opinion, these are the projects that you should implement. Okay, first you should know how to integrate. Then these are something that I have covered in my course also. Java, how to integrate, how to get code quality check and code coverage with respect to Java based project, how to get for Node.js based project, how to get for Python project. Okay, so again here three projects I cover. Then how we can perform multi-branch analysis, because generally when you use a community edition, which is the free edition of SonarQube, you'll be able to implement or perform the SonarQube analysis only on one branch. Okay, only on one branch, but there is a ways using which you can perform analysis on multiple branches. So how you can do that, you should be knowing about that as well. Then documentation along with the errors. Okay, and this will give you a deep dive idea about SonarQube, how exactly it works and how much you should know. Talking about security tools, so these two are the specific tools that I choose. Why? Because these two together are covering like most of the things. Because 𝗙vy can perform scanning on file system, 𝗙vy can perform scanning on Docker images, 𝗙vy can also be utilized within Kubernetes. So for that purpose, I highly recommend to use 𝗙vy, and there are many other reasons also for which 𝗙vy is preferred. For example, like it is the tool that has maximum access to different kind of databases, vulnerability databases. Okay, so you should know 𝗙vy, and you should know how to use 𝗙vy. There are different ways to use 𝗙vy by filtering results, setting up conditions, or like in that, so that you can generate report in proper format. Then we have OS dependency check, similar to 𝗙vy, but it has its own limitations. Then we have Prowler, which is going to help you scan your own AWS account for security assessments, compliance checks, and audits. Quite useful. Then we have OSJAP, it is used for penetration testing. So when I say penetration testing, basically what happens, let's say that I have deployed a website that is running on Google. So once we have deployed the website, then we perform pen testing or penetration testing, which basically means we try to attack the website to find out the vulnerable points, which points are vulnerable. So this can be done using OWASP-ZAP. So you should have very good knowledge on that. Then we have the best tool for security, 𝗙cie𝗿 right? Even on YouTube, nobody is showing how to integrate, but I'll be covering that. So you should know how you can use 𝗙𝗂𝗏 for storing your secrets or sensitive data, and later how you can utilize from there. Okay, moving to next, we have Nexus artifact management. So at this point, there are different tools utilized for storing artifacts, out of which Nexus is one of the tools that is widely used. Now, you should know how to set up Nexus in local, in Docker, as well as in Kubernetes, how you can set it up. Okay, first make sure that you understand what exactly is Nexus, how we for what purpose it is being utilized. Then you should know how to set up repositories. There are different kind of repositories Nexus. For example, for Maven you can create, for Node.js you can create, for Python you can create. Even for storing your Docker images, you can create a Docker repo. I have shown actually. So all these things you should know with respect to Nexus. Then how you can integrate it with your pipeline, and you can build Java project to push the Java artifact. Then with respect to Node.js artifact, so here also I'm covering two projects. Then you should know how you can utilize Nexus to download the artifacts and utilize them. That also you should know. Then you should know how to set up a private Docker registry, because why I'm teaching this, because this was something that we used in our project. We used to store our Docker images not on public repo, but our own private repo that we set up in Nexus. Okay. Then we have documentation, but little bit of troubleshooting also you should know with respect to Nexus. Now, talking about Docker. Why Docker? Because this is one of the most important. And yes, now one thing you should understand from my point of view, that any tool that exists in DevOps, it exists because it is solving a problem. Okay, you'll get to know about Docker as well. So make sure to find out what is the problem that Docker solves, and you'll be able to know that. Okay. Then we move to Docker architecture. What are the components? How exactly Docker works? Like what is the purpose of daemon? What is the purpose of CLI? You should know very properly. Then the main resources in Docker. We have Docker image, Docker container, Docker file. In Docker file, make sure that you have very good knowledge on writing Docker file properly. Okay, so you should have good knowledge on writing all the, basically all the keywords that we have in Docker. Most of them you should have very good knowledge on that. Then you should be able to know how to write different kind of Docker files. For Java, how to write, for Node.js, how to write, for Python project, how to write. So all these things you should be having knowledge on. Talking about next thing, so Docker commands. So in Docker commands, we can have so many things: building the Docker image, managing images, managing containers, then like pushing repositories, pushing the images to repositories, then creating resources like you can create volumes, you can create networks, how you can manage them. Those things you should know properly. Now, add versus copy and CMD versus entry point. This is something that is being asked in interviews a lot. So make sure that you do a proper hands-on demo on this. I have covered it. And actually, now building images, running containers, you should know. Pushing images to Docker Hub repo, pushing images to ECR or any other private Docker registry. Then multi-stage Docker file. You should know what exactly is the multi-stage Docker files, how you can write for Java project, how you can write for Node.js project. You should know. Then Docker Compose. If you have a project that requires multiple containers, then you should learn Docker Compose. Best example to learn this, in my opinion, is MongoDB and Mongo Express. Now, why I'm saying this, because if you are working with this example for Docker Compose, you get very good knowledge of so many other concepts also. So make sure to do that. Okay. Then we have multi-container deployment. You can pick up multiple container, some kind of project that has multiple containers, and you can work with it. Then we have Docker network and volumes. What kind of volumes we have, what kind of Docker network we have. Try to do it a demo or hands-on so that you get real-time knowledge. Talking about the project that I covered in course also, Docker integration with this, Node.js plus MySQL, .NET plus MongoDB, then we have Python plus Postgres, Java plus MySQL, then full stack normal Java application, virtual browser project to showcase a Docker Compose thing, 𝗙CARD basic Java project, and another Java project. So these are another list of projects that we'll be implementing with Docker. Talking about, yeah, there will be documentation. Sorry, this is a small mistake. It should be Docker here. Then we have Kubernetes. Yeah, in Docker, make sure that you are working or getting knowledge on Docker's errors and troubleshooting as well. This is going to be really useful if you are getting this knowledge. Then we have Kubernetes. Okay. Now, again, similar to Docker, get this information. What problem does Kubernetes solve? Then we have Kubernetes architecture. Okay. In architecture, you need to understand all these important concepts. First thing, master node, worker node. What are nodes? They are basically virtual machines. Okay. Then what process runs on master node, what process runs on worker node. We have controller, we have scheduler, we have API server, we have etcd, we have kubelet, we have kube proxy, we have container id, container d, right? So all these things you should have very good knowledge. First thing, this is the first architecture. After that, you should know how, let's say if a request comes to create a pod, so how that request will be managed within the cluster, like where that request goes, first API server, then from there to there, like what exactly is the workflow for creating a pod, then what is the process that is going to happen if you want to update the pod with something, if you want to delete the pod. So all these things you should have. This will be the something that is going to give you proper workflow knowledge on Kubernetes. Architecture, everyone teaching, everyone learning. This is something that you should be focusing on. How exactly when we try to create a pod, what is the whole process that happens? Okay, so this should be there. Then Kubernetes resources. In resources, what things we are having? Deployment pod, namespaces, service, secrets, config map, PVC, storage class. Other things also ingress we have, and other things also. There are many resources in Kubernetes. So we should have knowledge on that. Try to learn how to write these YAML files. See, because at this point, even if I create project for YouTube, I see lots of people simply download the file, copy paste, deploy, happy. That is not going to be useful. You need to learn to write the YAML files, how to write that. Okay, so make sure to learn that. Then we have service type. How many service types are there? There are multiple. Make sure to learn. Kubernetes networking, not many people teaching, but it's quite important. Why? Because if you are learning Kubernetes networking, you will get to learn about communication, pod to pod, then pod to service, how to restrict communication also. There are tons of concepts. Restrict communication can be done using network policies. So there are tons of concepts with respect to this Kubernetes resources and networking. Okay, so make sure to learn that as well. Then we are talking about setup. So when you are going with hands-on part, make sure to first of all set up a local Kubernetes. You can use Kind, Minikube, or 𝗃𝗶𝗄𝗏. I prefer to go with 𝗃𝗶𝗏𝗏. Gives very good idea about real time. Then you should set up EKS on AWS. Then set up AKS on Azure Kubernetes service. Okay, so then, and I have shown how to set up highly available key cluster, local one, and what are the role-based access control. That also you should be having very good knowledge. Then there are certain important tasks that you should be knowing about is the rollbacks. Once you have deployed application, how you can roll back, auto scaling, pod auto scale, horizontal auto scaling of pod and vertical auto scaling of pod. Taints and toleration, you can decide like where exactly the pod should be created. Then volumes, dynamic volume, which is going to be used for persistent storage inside any kind of Kubernetes cluster, so that your application does not lose data. Get knowledge on that as well. Now, talking about the projects with respect to Kubernetes. So basically, first of all, the project that I'm going to cover is mega project with a multi-tier mega project that has persistent volume enabled so that no data is getting lost. And this is something that I created dynamically. That means we don't have to create the volume or storage ourselves. We just need to give permission and tell to Kubernetes that create the volume for us. Helm chart also I am covering. Why I'm covering? Because Helm chart is something that gives very ease of access of any deployment. For example, if you want to roll back, very easy commands are there using which you can roll back your application in a very easy way. Okay, I'm covering Helm chart in detail with a mega project where I have taught how to write the Helm chart files also. The templates for Helm chart, the Helm chart values file, all those things I have shown how to write. Then you should definitely get good knowledge on how to configure SSL certificate with your deployed project. That also you should do. Then GitOps project, because GitOps is something one of the highly like used concept in companies who prefer to have security as a very priority. Then they try to use GitOps. GitOps is quite useful. Make sure you had hands-on implementation, blue-green deployment. At least I covered 2 examples in my course. Microservice. So I have covered 11 microservice projects, so that you get very good idea about how we can work with microservice project, and I have shown 2 ways how to work with that. Then a project where we are using Ingress and SSL certificate, both of them. Okay. And yeah, again, another important thing that we should know is Kubernetes errors and troubleshooting. What kind of errors do we get? Okay. Moving on to Azure DevOps. In Azure DevOps, when I say Azure DevOps, so I have mainly focused on DevOps part, how we can perform CI/CD pipelines, how we can deploy applications, deploy to different services, all those things I cover. So first thing that I recommend, understand how you can set up a Kubernetes organization, explore the core services, repos, pipelines, artifacts, AKS, and ECR, and also make sure to explore app services also. This is also quite important, because when you have basic application, simple application, you can deploy to app services. And at this point, I see it supports deploying application with database also. So it's quite important. So explore these services. Then creating pipeline. In Azure, we are having 2 kind of pipeline. One is known as classic pipeline, one is known as YAML pipeline. Classic is quite easy. You just have to drag and drop. Many companies use it a lot. While in YAML, you have to write a proper code in YAML. Okay. So I try to learn both of them. I try to teach both of them. And here also I have covered classic also and YAML also. In YAML also I have covered multiple projects with multi-tier projects. And then multi-cluster deployment also I have shown, like how you can deploy application to dev environment, then prod environment. Those things also I have covered. And how you can deploy your application to app services, that also I have shown. Okay, so this is what I would highly recommend if you want to get started with Azure DevOps. This is going to give you a very good idea from DevOps point of view. Okay, next we have infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code, we have 2 main tools that we need to learn about: Terraform and Ansible. Now, in Terraform, first thing, understand what exactly is 𝗙𝗔𝗿, including Terraform and Ansible together. Benefits of using Terraform, how exactly, what exactly is Terraform, what are the kind of files, how to write the code. When I say write the code, that is the most important part. Now, first thing we have to do, set up Terraform. Then we have to understand writing files from scratch. How do we write it? Because in Terraform, not everything you are going to copy, and writing Terraform files is quite easy. You just need to understand how everything gets linked. Okay. Then you need to understand about state management, state locking, and Terraform backends, these are the things that I usually cover. Terraform modules, conditional expressions and loops, managing secrets, Terraform workspaces, and with Jenkins. Workspaces, most important topic, because using workspace, you can see how you can set up like multiple environments very easily. Then there will be projects like infrastructure development, EC2 creation with infra, then multi-environment infra setup. Infrastructure as code, we have Ansible. Then first of all, understand what exactly is Ansible, why do we need it, what problem does it solve, understand how to write playbooks, understand Ansible collections, Ansible rules, Ansible with Jenkins, CICD project, Ansible Vault. Now, when we have sensitive data that we want to store within Ansible playbook, for that purpose, you can use Ansible Vault, quite useful to store sensitive data. Then, generally in companies, they are going to use Ansible and Terraform together. So for that purpose, I have created one project that utilizes both of them. And then documentation. Monitoring. So again, monitoring, there are multiple ways for monitoring. There are multiple tools available, but these are something that I highly recommend to get knowledge on. Prometheus, Grafana, Node Exporter, Black Box Exporter, how exactly they are working, how you can set up. So 3 situations I would suggest to set up. That's what I taught. Local monitoring setup you should do, then monitoring using Docker, then monitoring using Kubernetes. This will give complete idea about how monitoring is going to work. So the project that I covered, local monitoring with alert manager, so that we will receive email notifications also on our Gmail. Then how we can set up whole monitoring thing using Docker. Then how we can monitor Kubernetes worker node. Okay. And then how we can monitor an application that is deployed inside Kubernetes. Okay. These are the things that I covered. Now, talking about the projects that I have covered in my upcoming course, full stack projects, as you can see, these are the real projects. These are not some like Hello World kind of projects, and these are proper scenario based project, because you know, if you are working with Node.js, you should know how to connect to database. You should, if you are working with .NET project, you should know how to connect with MongoDB. If you are working with Python, you should know with this, right? You should know how communication, connection is going to happen with respect to database. Then a mega project with AKS, and this is going to be like node data loss project, Helm chart project, GitOps project, virtual browser project, 11 microservice project, Terraform Ansible project, Kubernetes worker node monitoring, and this.